They said it was impossible. Then Shaq and Kobe proved everyone wrong. While the basketball world was busy crowning other greatest duos, two Lakers were quietly building the most unstoppable force the NBA had ever seen. Not Jordan and Pippen, not Magic and Kareem, not any combination before or since. A 7'1", 325-pound giant who moved like a freight train but had the touch of a surgeon around the rim, paired with a 21-year-old assassin who could score from anywhere on the court and had ice water running through his veins. The numbers don't lie. 3 straight championships, 0 finals losses. Playoff series after playoff series where they didn't just beat teams, they broke them. Opponents would come into games with elaborate game plans, only to watch helplessly as Shaq bulldozed through triple teams while Kobe danced around defenders like they were standing still. But here's the part that'll shock you: they almost never happened. The front office nearly traded Kobe before his second season. Shaq was one contract dispute away from leaving Los Angeles. Phil Jackson had to convince 2 of the most stubborn personalities in sports history to trust each other. What came next changed basketball forever, and it started with a promise that seemed impossible to keep. By 1996, Shaquille O'Neal was already a force of nature. 4 years in Orlando had shown the world what 7'1" and 325 pounds of pure athleticism could do to a basketball court. He was averaging over 29 points and 11 rebounds per game. He was dunking so hard that the backboards were shattering. He was the most dominant center the league had seen since Wilt Chamberlain. But dominance in the regular season doesn't mean anything without rings. In 1995, Shaq led the Magic to the NBA Finals. At just 23 years old, he was supposed to be the future. Orlando was supposed to be his kingdom. But Hakeem Olajuwon in the Houston Rockets had other plans. They swept the Magic in 4 games, and suddenly, questions started flying. Could Shaq win the big one? Was he too immature, too unfocused, too concerned with his rap career and movie deals? The doubt ate at him. Orlando couldn't build a championship team around him fast enough. The Magic kept coming up short in the playoffs. By the summer of 1996, Shaq had made his decision. He wanted out. Los Angeles came calling with a 7-year, $121 million contract, the biggest deal in NBA history at the time. But more than the money, it was the opportunity. The Lakers had a young, hungry roster. They had Phil Jackson coming in as coach. They had championship aspirations. And they had just drafted a skinny 17-year-old guard straight out of high school. When the Charlotte Hornets selected Kobe Bryant with a 13th pick in the 1996 NBA draft, most people had never heard of him. Sure, he'd been a high school legend in Philadelphia. Sure, he'd won the slam dunk contest at a summer camp. But going straight from high school to the NBA, that was crazy talk. The Lakers saw something different. They saw a kid with footwork like Magic Johnson and a work ethic that scared veteran players. They traded for his draft rights immediately and gave him jersey number 8. But potential doesn't equal production. Kobe's rookie season was a struggle. He averaged just 7.6 points per game. He shot 41% from the field. There were games where he looked lost. Games where the speed of the NBA seemed too much. Veterans questioned whether he belonged. Fans wondered if the Lakers had made a mistake. The worst part? The way older players treated him. They saw him as cocky, entitled, a kid who thought he was better than he was. During practice scrimmages, teammates would refuse to pass him the ball. They wanted to teach him a lesson about respect, but Kobe kept working. Every morning at 5 a.m., he was in the gym. Every late night, he was studying film. The doubt only made him hungrier. By his second season, something clicked. He was starting games. His confidence was growing. The moves that looked impossible in high school were starting to work against NBA defenders. When Shaq arrived, he saw not just another young player, but a kid with a fire to match his own dominance. The 1996-97 season was about learning to coexist. Shaq was used to being the focal point of every offense. Kobe was used to having the ball in his hands. Put them together, and chemistry wasn't guaranteed. Early on, there were growing pains. Shaq would demand the ball in the post, but Kobe would try to create his own shot. Kobe would want to run the fast break, but Shaq couldn't keep up. They were two stars learning to share the spotlight. But slowly, things started to click. In a game against the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan's Bulls, the Lakers pulled off a shocking upset. Kobe scored 33 points. Shaq dominated the paint with 36 points and 20 rebounds. For the first time, people started to see what this duo could become. The playoffs that year ended in disappointment, a second-round loss to the Utah Jazz. But the foundation was there. The potential was obvious. All they needed was the right coach to unlock it. Phil Jackson came to Los Angeles with 11 championship rings from his playing and coaching days. He'd coached Michael Jordan and the Bulls to 6 titles. He understood how to manage superstars, how to get them to buy into his system. His triangle offense was perfect for Shaq and Kobe. It gave Shaq the ball in the post, where he was unstoppable. It created movement and spacing for Kobe to attack. Most importantly, it required both players to trust their teammates. The 1999 to 2000 season felt different from the start. Shaq was in the best shape of his career, averaging 29.7 points and 13.6 rebounds. Kobe was emerging as a superstar, putting up 22.5 points per game and making his first All-Star team. The Lakers finished 67-15, the best record in the league. In the playoffs, they looked unstoppable. They swept the Kings in the first round. They handled the Suns easily in the second round. Everything was building towards something special. Then came the Western Conference Finals, Portland Trail Blazers, and the game that would define their dynasty. June 4th, 2000, Staples Center, Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals. The Lakers had blown a 3-1 series lead. The Trailblazers had all the momentum. Portland was led by Scottie Pippen, Arvydas Sabonis, and a young, hungry roster that believed they could knock off the favorites. For 3 quarters, it looked like they were right. The Blazers led 71-58 entering the fourth quarter. Shaq had disappeared, managing just 9 points on 2 for 6 shooting through 3 quarters. The Lakers looked tired, frustrated, ready to fold. Then, something magical happened. With 10 minutes and 28 seconds left in the game, Portland led 75-60. Lakers' dynasty was 10 minutes away from ending before it started. But that's when Shaq and Kobe found another gear. Over the next 7 minutes, the Lakers went on a 15-0 run. Shaq started bullying his way to the basket. Kobe began hitting impossible shots. The crowd at the Staples Center was losing its mind. With 41 seconds left and the Lakers clinging to a small lead, Kobe took the ball on the left wing.
Portland has 3 timeouts left. The Lakers have 2. Bryant to Shaq. Shaq waited as long as he possibly could on the day.
He saw Shaq sealing his defender in the post. Without hesitation, he threw a perfect lob pass. Shaq caught it with one hand and threw it down with authority. 89-84. Lakers win. The moment that lob connected, the dynasty was born. Shaq finished with 18 points in the fourth quarter alone. Kobe had 25 points for the game. Together, they had staged one of the greatest comebacks in playoff history. As they celebrated on the court, you could see it in their eyes. This was just the beginning. The NBA Finals against the Indiana Pacers felt like a victory lap after surviving Portland. Shaq averaged 38 points, 16.7 rebounds, and 2.7 blocks per game in what many consider one of the greatest finals performances in history. Kobe contributed 21.1 points per game, showing he could step up on the biggest stage. The Lakers won in 6 games, bringing the first championship to Los Angeles since 1988. When Shaq held up that Finals MVP trophy, it felt like the beginning of something special. But they were just getting started. The 2001 playoffs were a masterpiece of dominance. The Lakers went 15-1, losing only 1 game in the entire postseason. Shaq was unstoppable, averaging 30.4 points and 15.4 rebounds in the playoffs. Kobe was becoming a superstar, putting up 29.4 points per game. They swept the Trailblazers in the first round, revenge for the previous year's scare. They dominated the Kings and Spurs. By the time they reached the finals against Philadelphia, they were playing a different level of basketball than everyone else. The 76ers, led by Allen Iverson, managed to steal Game 1 in overtime, but that was all they got. The Lakers won the next 4 games, with Shaq claiming his second straight Finals MVP. The 2002 run was perhaps their most complete. Shaq averaged 36.3 points, 12.3 rebounds, and 2.8 blocks per game in the finals, earning his 3rd consecutive Finals MVP. Kobe was right there with him, averaging 26.6 points per game in the playoffs. They swept the New Jersey Nets in the finals, completing the three-peat that hadn't been accomplished since Jordan's Bulls in the 1990s. But success came with a price. Behind the scenes, tension was building between the two superstars. During the season, the Lakers blamed their problems on what they felt was Bryant's selfish play. At one point, O'Neal pointed at Bryant and told reporters in the locker room, "There's the problem." Kobe wanted more shots, more responsibility. Shaq felt like Kobe was trying to steal his spotlight. Phil Jackson was caught in the middle, trying to manage 2 massive egos. The arguments were becoming public. The chemistry that had made them unstoppable was starting to crack. The 2003-04 season brought new hope with the addition of Karl Malone and Gary Payton. The Lakers had assembled a super team before super teams were cool. 4 future Hall of Famers on one roster. They cruised to the finals, but the Detroit Pistons were waiting. A blue-collar team built on defense and teamwork. Everything the Lakers weren't. The series was ugly. The Lakers looked disconnected, selfish. Shaq and Kobe's relationship had deteriorated to the point where they barely spoke to each other. Detroit won in 5 games, shocking the basketball world. It was the end of an era. After the finals loss, the Lakers faced a choice: Shaq or Kobe. They couldn't afford both, and they certainly couldn't manage both. They chose youth over experience. In July 2004, Shaq was traded to the Miami Heat for Lamar Odom, Caron Butler, and Brian Grant. The big Aristotle was heading south, leaving Kobe to rebuild the Lakers dynasty. Shaq went on to win another championship in Miami in 2006. Kobe eventually won 2 more titles in Los Angeles in 2009 and 2010. Both proved they could win without each other. Years later, both players admitted they handled the situation poorly. In interviews, they expressed regret about how things ended. The beef that had torn apart a dynasty slowly turned into mutual respect. When Kobe was inducted into the Hall of Fame, Shaq was there. When Shaq got his jersey retired, Kobe supported him. Time had healed the wounds that competition had created. Looking back, what Shaq and Kobe accomplished together was more than just 3 championships. They changed how the NBA was played. They proved that a dominant center and a versatile guard could coexist. They created a template for superstar partnerships that teams still try to replicate today. Their three-peat from 2000 to 2002 remains one of the most dominant runs in sports history. They not only won championships, they redefined what championship-level basketball looks like. Individually, they were Hall of Fame talents. Together, they were unstoppable. Their legacy is about showing the world what happens when 2 generational talents put their egos aside and play for something bigger than themselves, even if they couldn't do it forever. The Shaq-Kobe Lakers weren't just a team. They were a phenomenon, a glimpse of basketball perfection that we may never see again. And that's what makes them the greatest duo in NBA history.